Hey everyone, it's time for the Halo Wars 2 leader ranking video. I do this annually for Halo Wars 2, and this is me just ranking every single leader in the game. I'm going to post a link down to previous years. I think this is now the 4th or 5th year in a row that I've done this sort of ranking, so if you want to see how I felt about leaders in the past, check out those videos down below. For this one, this is going into 2022, about how I feel about the leaders going into the new year. We didn't really receive any balance changes in Halo Wars 2. 343 is no longer technically supporting the game. So this list is entirely based on my own opinion. This is not objectively correct or anything like that. This really all depends on how you feel about your individual leaders as well, and you may agree or disagree with this list. So let's go ahead and get started. To recap quickly from last year's ranking video, I did kind of the tier system. So in S tier, I had Yap Yap, Decimus, Jerome. In the A tier, I had Atriox, Anders, Colony, Cutter, Johnson. The B tier was Forge, Isabel, Serena. The C tier was Consano, Vortis, Pavium. And the D tier was Arbiter and Shipmaster. And that was just because I didn't like playing as Arbiter or Shipmaster. That was a joke for years that I hated playing as those leaders. I actually got around to playing those leaders quite a lot in 2021. So let's go ahead and get started with the S tier. The leaders I think are the best in Halo Wars 2 is Vortis and Arbiter. I think Arbiter went from worst to first this year. I've just seen so many times. We've done some strats in various videos throughout the year with like Conduit of Rage stacked with the Plasma Bolt, doing a just regular plasma bolt on extractors as an early kind of rush early in the game if you're playing threes. There's a lot you can do with Arbiter that makes him so good, especially as the game progresses. He is really nasty. Vortis is also really nasty. There is Maelstrom, Cataclysm, Combat Spoils, Infusion Wake, the Healing Frenzy ability that Vortis has. I mean, Vortis just has so many good powers, and his eco is just way over the top when you get combat spoils going and have a successful early rush. You're all set for the rest of the game. Going into the A tier is Atriox, Colony, Decimus, Yap Yap, and Shipmaster. Remember, in 2020, I put Shipmaster all the way down at D tier, and that was just because I didn't like to play as him. As I played as him a lot more this year, I've come to really enjoy playing as Shipmaster. I think the spirit support drop that he has with the veteran engineers and the elite rangers and the hunters is just so good. I think the displacement is really a lifesaver, especially if someone's going to spam vultures at you. Shipmaster is just so much fun to play. Hilariously enough, Yap Yap is my most successful leader percentage-wise. I win the most games playing as Yap Yap. Everybody knows that Decimus is really strong in Halo Wars 2 once you get Boundless Siphon and Boundless Fury. Colony is, of course, great with the OP Hunter Captain, the Skitters, Combat Repair, and the amazing NG Swarm. And Atriox has always been excellent in Halo Wars 2. He's always been really, really good. With a strong hero, he can counter a lot of heroes, and there's not a lot of leaders that could counter him. So Atriox is just really, really good. Moving into the B tier, this is really where we see UNSC kind of fall off. Halo Wars 2 has kind of really always had this problem where Banished always outclasses UNSC in so many different scenarios. So that's why in B tier I have Anders, Johnson, Cutter, Jerome, Isabel, and Forge all in the B tier. It's not to say that these leaders are bad, but I don't think these leaders are as good as their Banished counterparts. If you look at this list in the S tier and A tier, that is all exclusively Banished, in my opinion. I think Johnson is probably one of my standout favorites for UNSC, partly because Mech Overcharge is just so good when a ultimate leader power is dropped. He can rebuild his buildings for free with digging in deep. The Johnson Y ability heal is excellent. I really enjoy the EMP mag, the digging in with the siphon turrets. There's a lot that makes Johnson pretty strong as an overall leader. Anders, people sleep on Anders Sentinels. I just made a video recently where I spammed Anders Sentinels, and once you get the fully upgraded Sentinels with the, I always forget the name now, of that leader power that gives them the shields, is really, really good. Cutter's great too. Cutter has all of these drops of units and powers. He's a very offensive-friendly leader. Jerome is great because of the Mastodons and a Mega Team. Isabel's great because of Ghost of the Machine and shielded Scorpion tanks and Nightingales, and Forge has rolling economy and a great leader in the Forge Hog. That being said, again, I just think that the banished leaders really outclass all of these leaders in a lot of situations. Granted, I probably should have said this at the top of the video, but I almost exclusively play either 2s or 3s. I don't play a whole lot of 1s in Halo Wars 2, so these leaders may fare differently in those playlists than the playlists that I mostly play in. Moving on to the C tier, these are leaders I think could use a little bit of help. It is Cansano and Serena. Now, Cansano, I think, has a really good foundation. Cansano is one of my favorite leaders in the whole game. When she came out, she was so great. The Inferno ability is excellent, but only really if you drop it on a base, especially UNSC base. You can start stripping all of the pads. If you get a banished shield down, you can drop the Inferno on it, and you can start stripping those pads as well. But Cansano, I think, she needs a little bit more of an oomph, if you will, to kind of make her into those upper tier leaders. And I think Serena is okay, but I think she can kind of fall off. You need kind of multiple leader power usage to kind of really make her viable. And I don't really think any of her unique units are really all that interesting. Crowd Troopers are fine. I think Frost Ravens are okay. I've made some videos about how much fun I've enjoyed playing as them. But I just think Serena kind of really gets outclassed in a lot of scenarios. However, you can kind of incorporate these leaders into other leaders to make them more viable. I think a good example is maybe using Cansano's Inferno with maybe a Voridus Maelstrom, for example. I would love to see Cansano be a little bit more viable in this game. I really like her Flamehogs. That's her favorite. I mean, that's her only unique unit, and it's one of my favorites in all of the UNSC leaders offer. But I think Serena should have Frost Warthogs. Why can Cansano have Fire Warthogs and Serena can't have Frost Warthogs? And how come Serena can have Ice Siege, but Cansano can't have Flame Siege? I kind of wish they were a little bit more comparable in certain areas, but I think with the powers that Serena has, it kind of sets her apart away from Cansano, but I don't think either one of them are all that excellent. There's only one leader left that I need to rank in Halo Wars 2, and that goes in the D tier, and it is, unfortunately, Pavium. The reason is if you go ahead and get Pavium's Mega Turrets, you're already sacrificing a building slot for either an eco building or a production building, both of which are important to win in Halo Wars 2. Pavium doesn't really fare well on a lot of maps. I think Pavium's best map is Bedrock. That way you have range of the Mega Turrets if you have nodes and stuff. And the Lich Vanguard ultimate ability is really cool, but the problem is that he just really falls off both in the beginning and really the end of the match. Pavium is fantastic if you can kind of combine him with Johnson and do that really OP Pavi in a bunker, because the drone will heal the bunker that Pavium is in. You can stack that with a whole bunch of other leaders, like maybe Colony, or maybe even a second Pavium in a bunker. There's a lot of fun that you can have with the Pavium hero. He's just not all that interesting besides his healing drone. He does have some cool defensive powers, but he's just not all that strong. And Burnout 3 is really worse than Burnout 2. The reason being is it costs more, but it doesn't give you as much benefit compared to Burnout 2. So there is that really kind of pulls Pavium back. I wish he was better, because he is like designed perfectly for super turtling, which is what we love to do on the channel. But he just unfortunately does not perform. I can't recall if we've had a Super Turtle on Sentry that was successful when we played as Pavium. I know we've had a few where we Super Turtled on Bedrock, and it was great. But Pavium sucks on other maps, like Highway. Pavium's horrible. Ashes, he's okay in. Frontier, he's fine. But Highway, he's terrible. On Badlands, I'm not so sure. Again, I just don't think if you're going to pick Pavium, you really should just pick someone else like Voridus or Colony or Atriox. All of those leaders, the really only main benefit you're getting out of Pavium is a drone healing ability on the hero unit and Mega Turrets, both of which can be easily replaced. For example, Colony's ultimate healing ability can heal buildings as well, so that kind of cancels out Pavium's passive building healing ability. And if you want really good siege, you can go Voridus. If you get Infusion Tech 2, your blisterbacks will spawn Infusion where those projectiles land. So I just think he kind of gets outclassed in so many different scenarios. And I just don't recommend you play as Pavium at all. Whenever there's a video and we see a Pavium on the other team, we always say that that's like half a player because Pavium is really at such a handicap compared to some of the other leaders. So to recap, this is the ranking list for the Halo Wars 2 leaders going into 2022. It's in the S tier, Vortis and Arbiter. The A tier consists of Atriox, Colony, Decimus, Yap Yap, Shipmaster. The B tier is Anders, Johnson, Cutter, Jerome, Isabel, and Forge. The C tier is Consano and Serena. Finally, the D tier is Pavium. I'd love to know where you disagree with this list or agree with this list based on my rankings. Let me know what your rankings are for the leaders in the comments down below. If this is your first time on the channel, we love to play Halo Wars 2. We're uploading Halo Wars 2 videos daily, consisting of Super Turtles, where we play defense, and really hilarious strats that we pull off in regular multiplayer games as well. Love to have you join us, and we have a Discord server if you want to continue this conversation with thousands of other Halo Wars 2 players. All right, everybody, that does it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you, James.